unless there is a little stirring of some doubt. Doubt is another strange psychological factor. Doubt itself has got two prongs, two aspects. One, it's all rubbish. Doubt the whole thing, dump it and go. That is, all this teaching is nonsense. It has no validity at all. I doubt its very validity. Then again it's lost. The other form of doubt is, it seems to be true, but how is it related to life? It seems to be true, but I am unable to relate it to my life. Is it possible to live in an intelligent way? That doubt leads further to an inquiry into the meaning of life. So, all these factors may be relevant, but the $6 million question remains unanswered. How does it come about? You go to satsang. Why do I go to satsang? Because you are fallen into a sort of doubt. But if I am fallen into doubt, I reject the whole thing. God's grace. When you can't answer, bring the poor God in to bail you out. God's grace. That is perhaps true. If that mysterious something called grace is there, then it is possible that a morning's newspaper might awaken you, leave alone a scripture. You might pick up something on the way. Here they don't do it. In India, when you go to a grocer and ask for something, camphor for instance, sometimes you would pick up a printed sheet and fold it and wrap it and give it to you. That may be your spiritual awakener. There may be something there. It may be a book written by somebody which had gone into a scrap heap, and you read that one page and you may be awakened. Or somebody in the bus may be talking and you may pick up one little hint and that might awaken you. Only through grace. So, and therefore, Vasistha starts there, Shubhecha. The first step is a pious resolve, a pious desire, a holy desire, a sacred desire, an auspicious desire to investigate life, the meaning of life, to investigate the trap into which we have built, the trap built by us and into which we have deliberately entered, considering it security, considering it the truth. We are not going to reject it, we are not going to dismiss it, we are not going to burn it up, we are going to investigate it with an open mind. In order for this auspicious desire to arise in one's mind, one needs grace. That's the first step. Vicharana. This word is one of the favorites of all yogis, especially jnana yogis, they who are devoted to the path of wisdom. But unfortunately, it has no equivalent in the English language. It's usually translated enquiry, and it's not something which you get at the enquiry office. It is not something which you do at the enquiry office. It has been translated into investigation. It's not some kind of a scientific investigation, because it is not something which is outside. It is not analysis. Analysis again means tearing apart, tearing apart, tearing apart. It's none of these. And I'm afraid there is no way of escaping this problem. But as we go on, perhaps we shall understand this. What starts off this with Charana, whatever it is? The fact that we feel trapped, the fact that we experience bondage, the fact that we experience unhappiness, and yet we are unable to exhibit this unhappiness, produce this unhappiness. If someone asked you when you are unhappy, well, give me that unhappiness, I will take it away from you. You are unable to produce it. You say, this is my opinion. Come on, give me that opinion, I will take it. So you will be free. You are unable to give it. You are unable to produce it. Let's say physical pain. Perhaps in the case of physical pain, it is possible for a doctor or nurse to diagnose, yes, this muscle is tense, or this muscle is knotted up, or something has happened there, there is an abscess there is an ulcer there. When you talk of psychological unhappiness or sorrow, which is 1,000,000 times worse than a headache, where is it and what is it? When you ask these two questions of yourself, there's great sorrow or great fear. I'm terribly unhappy. And if you ask at that moment, where is this sorrow? What is this sorrow? What happens to you is vicharana. And in order to engage yourself in this vicharana, there should be no anxiety to get rid of that. If you want to get rid of that sorrow or unhappiness, probably you will go to the bottle, or go to a movie, or somewhere else, or do something else. You are averting your gaze from whatever it is that you described as unhappiness. If you avert your gaze from that which you described as unhappiness or sorrow, you cannot understand what it is. It's as simple as that. So, there is no anxiety to get rid of it. Nor is there a desire or a will to grin and bear it. When you have decided to grin and bear it, you are not looking at it either. You are quite happy with it. And so you turn your gaze away and be busy doing something else. Is there a third one? Without a desire to get rid of it, without a desire, without a willingness to grin and bear it, is there a third alternative? That is the question, where is this unhappiness And what is this unhappiness made of? What is this? What is the stuff of which this thing is made? I know what it is to have an ulcer. I know what it is to have a muscular cramp. I know what it is to have rheumatic pain. All these are easily diagnosable. I know what those things are made of, the constituents of the body. But what is this thing called sorrow made of? What is this thing called unhappiness made of? What is this thing called anxiety made of? Fear made of? Craving made of? What exactly is this? When this question arises in the mind, and it is serious, it doesn't want to go to sleep, what happens to your awareness is known as Vicharana. That's all that can be said, nothing more. What happens? It is quite possible that you may start off with some sort of mental exercise, mental activity. You may probably start thinking about. And while thinking about, you might discover that on account of previous conditioning, the mind immediately jumps out and pins the blame on something outside. I am unhappy because he said I am an idiot. Maybe you are. So there are quite a number of names which can be funny, huh? I know a few Indian names which are very derogatory. They like your names too, Savage, Mr. Savage, Lord Savage, maybe some such name, Foot. My foot. So maybe he thinks that the name of this being is idiot. You idiot. What is it in me that takes it as an insult and is offended, is miserable? So, on account of past conditioning, one tends to pin the sorrow upon someone else. It comes from there. But Vicharana brings it to oneself. I don't know what that oneself means. You'll have to discover it for yourself. Then there is the other. If you don't blame others, you blame yourself. You know, I did this. That's what made him think I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. This is perhaps better than blaming the other person, because it brings the attention closer home. But it is still not what is happening, but you are investigating or you are looking at a supposed cause. We are not interested in that. Vicharana is not interested in that. Vicharana is directly observing the answers to these two questions. Where is this sorrow and what is it made of? I don't care who is responsible for it. Whether someone else outside is responsible for it, or I am responsible for it. It has arisen. Now I am interested to know, where is it? What is it? There is no psychological analysis, there is no psychological reasoning, rationalization, nothing. But again, man being a rational animal or an intellectual creature loves to rationalize, loves to intellectualize, loves to conceptualize. Right? You want to conceptualize sorrow? Come on, sit down. Now, I am terribly miserable. Yes. Freud says it's all due to some sort of suppression. That's what Freud said. What's happening in you? Is this something that is happening in you or in Freud? In me. Okay, dismissing. Buddha says, oh, is it happening in you or is it happening in the Buddha? In me. Okay, dismiss the Buddha. Krishna says. So, when you are tempted to intellectualize, conceptualize or rationalize your own unhappiness or sorrow, and these thoughts come gushing up, if you look at them again, you will see that they are not your thoughts at all. They are not your thoughts. They have been planted there by somebody, by your parents or by your teacher or by some priest or Swami or somebody. And those things are coming up. Ill-digested food being thrown up, you are sick. Let them come out. It's better, catharsis. Better to throw it all up than to keep it all in. So, once you have brought it out within yourself and seeing that I have studied all the philosophy in the world, still I am miserable. Then you will say, bye-bye all philosophies. Hari Om Tat Sat. Now let us look at the sorrow. The sorrow is still there. In spite of all the philosophical disquisition and inquisition, the sorrow is still there. What happens from there on is Vicharana. That is, you have freed the mind or observation. We don't want to call it intelligence at this stage, though it may be some sort of an inner intelligence that engages itself in this observation or Vicharana. But let us call it for the moment just simple observation or awareness. This observation or awareness is freed from others, freed from yourself, freed from all sorts of memories. And as these things are shed one after the other, there arises a stage which is thus beautifully described by Vasistha, Thanumanasi. The mind becomes thinned out. The mind became gross more in the French sense of fat and pregnant. The mind became gross because with every little thing that is added on to it, it became thicker and thicker and thicker and more opaque. When it assumed that all its own prejudices and hallucinations were real and therefore acted upon them, confirmed them, and brought on endless misery upon itself, it became dense, opaque, thick. And when this vicharana commences, and all these things are dropped away, my sorrow is not the result of what someone else does to me. My sorrow is not the result of even what I did. And my sorrow cannot be explained away by any philosophy in this world. It is still there. At that point, Tanumanasi, the mind becomes very thin. Transparent, clear. There is intense clarity. The sorrow is still there, huh? It's not gone. The sorrow is still there, but there is intense clarity. These three states are together said to resemble the waking state of consciousness, for a very simple reason, that this gross world that you and I have built with our thoughts, mostly prejudices, mostly hallucinations, prejudices being I am this, you are this, hallucination being I am related to you in a certain way. It's extremely simple definitions, I think. What are prejudices? I am a man and you are a lady. And what is hallucination? I am related to you in some way. I am an Indian, you are an Australian. A prejudice. And you are my enemy or you are my friend, that is pure hallucination. There is nothing there. No such thing can be proved to exist. But these things have become solid realities. And on this return journey, all these are still there in our consciousness. We are investigating these. And therefore, these three steps, Shubhecha, Vicharana, and Tanumanasa, these are still within the waking state of consciousness. But different from the waking state described last week in connection with the fall of intelligence. In what way? When the fall took place, the intelligence progressively went deeper and deeper into sleep. That is, there was a movement further and further away from the center. It was the intelligence that was falling asleep, and the ignorance was spreading out. Here, in these three, Shubhecha, Vicharana, and Tanumanasa, the things begins to come back to us. Though it is still there, it is slowly moving towards the center. And intelligence is tossing in bed. It's still not awake. Tossing in bed, about to wake up. Still not awake. But the world is still awake. The world consciousness, the awareness of the objective world is very much alive, very much awake, because that it is what we are endeavoring to investigate. So, what is called sorrow in this world may, by God's grace, produce a little awakening in us to undertake this adventure. And it is the same sorrow that helps the seeker in a tremendous way. People often ask, how do I know how to look within? What do you mean, how to look? how to look within. Haven't you ever had any pain, physical pain? First look at the seat of that physical pain. Don't do anything. Don't turn your... Without using your external sight, you can observe even physical pain. Try that first for some days. And if you have no physical pain, ask somebody to pinch you. Merely to learn to look. Learn to look. It's possible to become aware of physical pain without looking with the eyes. That is awareness. Of a low degree, but it's still good. Then you go through all sorts of psychological states, emotional states, sorrow, grief, anxiety, fear and so on. The procedure is exactly the same. Sit quietly and observe. What on earth is this? I'm unhappy. What is this? Unhappiness. If this attitude is not adopted, even that sorrow is wasted upon us. If this attitude is somehow brought about, then more sorrow the merrier. Because you get hold of each one of those instances of grief, one of those instances of sorrow, unhappiness, and make such good use of it that you are forever and ever freed from sorrow. This is also the basis of Buddha's teachings. And that is why he called sorrow an Arya Satya, Arya Satya, noble truth. The first noble truth is that there is sorrow. Why is it noble? Because it can ennoble you. Because if you learn to observe it, to see how it arises, not why it arises, to see how it arises, you are looking directly